Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Coach's Corner University podcast. I'm your host, Paul O'Need, and today's podcast, as usual, is brought to you by Coach's Corner University. If you head over to coachescorneru.com and use the code podcast300, it'll save you $300 on lifetime access to our Coach's Corner Education Collective with over 200 hours of continuing education lectures for coaches and trainers. We're also brought to you by TC Nutrition. Use code TCXONEED at checkout to save 10%. And also by Barefoot Shoes. Use code ONEED at checkout to save 10% there as well. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by a friend of mine, Sam Slater. Sam is a nationally qualified physique athlete in both the women's physique and women's bodybuilding division. She also is the head coach at the Slay team, which is perhaps the best coaching team name ever invented. Sam, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Paul. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so maybe a little bit of an introduction. How did you get into coaching?
Sure. So, um, the road to coaching was winding and long, but I absolutely love what I do. I grew up playing a ton of sports. I'm also the oldest of three children.
Mm-hmm.
So, as the oldest child, you're basically already coaching your younger siblings your whole life. So, that would be my first experience. Then going through, I always found that I did well when other people needed help. I would love to help, and I got joy out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Went to university, did some jobs after that that I did not like at all. Um, Decided to take a risk and get certified as a personal trainer. Loved it, and then it just evolved to my own coaching business from there. I'm now fully online. I'm also now 80% just bodybuilding competitors and a few
Wow.
power lifters on their nutrition. So I'm really dialing in my niche and doing what I love to do.
I love it. Did you go to school for anything like kinesiology, exercise science related?
No, I got a degree in pharmaceutical chemistry.
I mean, that's kind of bodybuilding related.
Kind of bodybuilding. It really helped with the researching side of things for sure. Um, we didn't do anything, when they said pharmaceutical chemistry, it was more so just analyzing compounds that could be
Right.
used in a pharmaceutical capacity. So we made our own aspirin and then we tested it, kind of thing.
That's kind of
Right.
cool,
So
actually.
it was cool. It was cool. I did better with the hands-on stuff, anyways, and I did, not as great with like organic chemistry. Let's say that was
Fair.
really, really hard.
Yeah.
Um,
That was one of the
but
hardest
I
courses
was
I ever took.
right. Like I barely squeaked a pass in
Yeah.
that one. But
Did
no one asks what your grades were. They just see that you got you got the degree,
That's what I'm saying. I got two master's
right?
degrees. No one would ever know. I was like, no, I actually did get good grades. I wish I was like cool. It's like, oh yeah, I never studied and I still got
Yeah,
by. No,
yeah, yeah,
I got good
yeah.
grades. I was a nerd. Um, so what? Obviously, competing came first, right? And then you kind of flowed
Yes.
into coaching.
Yes. So my first show, I was working in a microbiology lab. Um, so that was good in the sense of your first competition, you don't know what to expect, right? So it was, wake up, fasted cardio, go to work, go to the gym, prep meals for the next day, go to bed. And it was like so regimented um, that I absolutely crushed that prep. And I loved every second of it. Got on stage, with no expectations because I didn't know what was going on and fell in love with it. And then did my second competition while I was working in a different lab. And then by my third, I was already personal training.
Very cool. Now you're someone who I know for a fact heavily researches what they do. You're very well educated in the realm of bodybuilding, physique sport. How did your quest for education go from what I can only assume is like a course to become a personal trainer I'm not gonna like. What certification did you get initially?
The first one was Camp It.
Yeah, so a
I was
weekend
out of
course
life. Yeah.
to be someone who would be regarded as one of the more well informed, educated coaches. How did you go from there, one to the other?
So there was little, you know, courses along the way, different PT certs. I actually learned a lot more while I was working at the University of Guelph gym. They had
Oh,
us do 2 weekends full course to be able just to work in the gym. So that was like initially my extent of education um, on the personal training side of things. And then it was just experience. Like, experience is the best teacher by far. So, with little tidbits of learning along the way, going to fitness conferences, um, and then competing in 13 competitions myself.
oh
Um,
wow.
the majority of those being self coached.
Really?
So, yeah,
I knew you were
I haven't
self
had a,
coached now. I didn't know you were always self coached.
yeah, I've only had, uh, let's say, three coaches,
Hmm.
two, and then my ex kind of had eyes on me.
Right.
But that was since 2017 was self coached.
Okay, let's dive into that a little bit because
Sure.
honestly, that's one of the hardest things for me to conceptualize, especially in physique sport. Because for anyone who hasn't competed in a physique sport, you are batshit crazy for about 6 weeks and you have no idea what the fuck you're looking at.
Yeah.
How do you maintain that objectivity and not completely throw monkey wrenches where they shouldn't be?
So there definitely was monkey wrenches thrown in the
Okay.
early years, 100%.
Okay.
It's just experience. It's experience now, right? It's being able to like. So initially, to get over that, I would take progress pictures and then cover my face. So I was pretending I was just looking at another competitor,
Okay.
right? So I would
Yeah.
do that to compare week to week, closer to day. Tim obviously helps me too, just a set of eyes, right?
Hmm.
Um, lets me kind of talk out loud what I'm thinking, and then
Right.
he'll just kind of either say, "Yeah, that sounds great," or right. But when you're crazy like that, anyways, you kind of just have an idea in mind and you kind of do it. This last prep I did do some things differently.
Okay.
It was a bit of an experiment. I don't think I would repeat a bunch of the things I did again, but some things I liked, right? So it's like just without the absolute pressure of like, I have to go pro at this next show, you
Hmm.
can take the time to still experiment and collect data and see how your body works with different methods. So, like for instance, this time I did no hit. I just did steady state and steps.
Okay.
Previous preps, I like used so much hit. I prefer the hit, and
Really
I felt like I was fuller, denser looking. Like I felt more stringy this year
interesting.
compared to last year. I've done uh, like carb ups super clean. I've done carb ups super dirty. Like tons of experiments, right? So then you just kind of keep collecting, and
Yeah.
every prep is different. But
Hmm.
at least you have so much data to be like, oh no, that didn't work. Oh yeah, let's do that. Oh, you know what I mean? So
I do, and I think it takes a lot, like a genuine level of curiosity, right? You have to
yeah,
have this curiosity, but also this emotional detachment from because you know that's like it might work, it might not work, and I have to be prepared to accept those consequences, good or bad.
yeah,
But then at the same time, when it comes time for you to get that pro card and you've done the work, you're rewarded for the package that you put on stage, you can look yourself in the mirror and go, "Hey, I did that by myself."
yeah.
That's
Which
super,
is
super powerful.
which is why now it's like, the person that I would have coach me would be Tim, because it's like then it's still us,
Yeah.
because we're married anyway, so my wins are his wins and vice versa. But it's like I would have such a hard time hiring a coach right now because of the what? since 2017. How many years? 6
Yeah.
years, whatever it is. Of
27. That's 7 years.
7 years, seven
Yeah.
years of like who will actually know my body better? You know what I mean?
Totally. It's
Like,
I saw it firsthand, right? Because last year Liv coached herself to her shows. And then this year hiring Austin for her prep.
hmm hmm
We knew that her personality was such that even if I told her to pull back, she wouldn't. So like I had eyes on her all last season, but at the same time, the personality is one where it's go 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 push push push. You kind of need that third party involved to be able to pull it back.
yes, the only way I would say Tim would be able to coach me is because he coached me to my powerlifting meet. And in
Ah,
in powerlifting, I am 0 to 100. I'm like, why am I not maxing out every single day? Right? Like, if I was coaching myself, I'd max out every day. So he
fair.
coached me for that. I had to you know, uh, just totally trust him and follow the plan exactly, and I did it. And I
Mhm.
was extremely happy with my results on that. And then it also prepared me. It's like I can dissociate the husband side of it and be like, nope,
Yeah,
I trust him. He knows me. Who else knows me better than him other than myself?
right.
Right. So I feel with the, you know, practice and experience from that, because that's how I feel in bodybuilding now. I have enough experience that I could be like, okay, yes, I know when to pull back and when to, like,
Mhm.
initially, no, I was like all the way, right?
Yeah,
But with powerlifting, it was like, oh, I could just like, why am I not just, one rep max 5 times a week? Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, you could
Seven
try
days a
that.
week, every
You could
day.
try that. I wouldn't advise it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't advise, but you
No.
could try that.
But I would want to, right? So I really took, because then he's programming and I'm going in there and I'm like, this feels light. Like, does he know that I want to lift heavy? Like, right? But it all
Yeah,
it all adds up. And I was just coming out of my show
right.
and I picked a meet 9 weeks later.
So you caught the rebound real
So
good.
I, oh yeah.
So let me ask you this: you're bringing with you this kind of experience of experimentation, also like a ton of self discovery along the way.
hmm
But you're a coach to other people. How do you allow them or foster a relationship with your athletes where you want them to experience that same amount of self reflection, self discovery, and experimentation while also being their guide?
That's a good question. A lot of them are good on that on their own. A lot of them feel very safe to, I've created an environment for them to be able to open up um, without much difficulty. So some of them will reflect and feel something and then tell me right away. Um, I don't know, a lot of their self reflection comes along in the form of self growth as they say get lean for a competition or as they start doing something for their health, which then is doing something for themselves
Yeah.
because they've put everyone else first, right? So like I have a client. She came to me. She wanted to do her first competition. um, she was like high body fat percent,
Okay.
right? I said, all right, let's see what you got, right? I met up with her early on for a training session. I had to teach her like how to actually train hard, right?
Yep.
Because that people, their minds just immediately like, well, no, I can't leg extension more than 30 pounds. I'm like, you can do like 5x that for sure,
My
right?
favorite's
So it's
the I'm doing hypertrophy work, 4 sets of 10.
like, it's like that's cute, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But so, and then on top of that, she was struggling with family dynamics.
Hmm.
She was struggling with how her family viewed food and how she grew up with that. She was
Right.
struggling because she hated her job. She was struggling, struggling, struggling. So since working together, since I guess it was last July, she quit that job. She went back to school to do something she loved. She's down 55 pounds
Unreal.
naturally. She's in fantastic shape. Posing's amazing. She just got her suit yesterday and she's like over the moon. And it's a whole, she's not nearly as neurotic and like before it was like every little thing was something to stress about.
Right.
Now she'll text me and she'll be like, "Hey, this just happened, but I'll be fine." Before it would have been a complete meltdown. The kids are saying a complete mentee B.
Minty
That's
B.
what they're
Yep.
a mentee B, right?
We're
So
old. We're old
it's
though. We can't say that stuff.
too old for that. Too old for that. But
I love
it's
that.
just been
That's
amazing.
there's
It's been
so
amazing.
that's one of the things that I really got to see when I transitioned more into the physique side of the sport is like these transformations that happen between the ears and in the chest
Oh yeah.
while you're going through the process of suffering, right? Because it's manufactured suffering.
Oh yeah.
But you never truly realize how strong you are until you undergo these hardships.
Yeah.
And I think it also like undergoing those types of manufactured hardships almost make the hardships of day-to-day life just a little less challenging, a little less overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I have a few theories on it, but part of it is, if I can do this, then that's tiny. But it's also a sense of calm knowing that you can attack these battles on both sides and still be just an island and you're fine.
100%. 100%. It really is. Um, like people will find things hard because they've never done hard things.
Yeah. The hardest thing you've ever
So
done is the hardest thing you've ever done.
right? So even though you might not, you're in your off season, you're eating, you're feeling good, your appetite is, not ravenous like the end of a prep. You still, you might not remember how you felt in those last couple of weeks on prep, but it wasn't good.
Hmm.
You couldn't sleep, you couldn't this, but so then, someone's like, oh, hey, this, like everyone, a lot of people talk about burnout and being overwhelmed and all this stuff. I I don't entirely believe in it because I think humans are so capable of taking on so much while at the same time being able to do things they do enjoy,
Hmm.
right? You have to work, you have to play.
Right.
So if you find, and balance isn't 50-50 with those, right?
Never.
If you find one that works for you, if it's 90-10, if it's 80-20, if it's whatever it is, it's going to be different for everyone.
Hmm.
And there might be moments where it's 100-0. That's prep, right?
Yeah.
So as long as you can kind of tell yourself like, "Hey, I can handle this." And I
Hmm.
just need like 2 seconds out of my day to shift my mindset. It's not going to be easy, but it is simple.
Yeah. I think whenever I look at hardships and I look at the sense of overwhelm, I think there's a few factors involved. So I'm totally on the same page with you that we can do so much more than what we believe we can. Like we're so much more capable than we believe we are.
Hmm.
And you can take on a lot, but there has to be some sort of pressure release valve and it has to be time limited. So, for example, you're in a prep, it's 100-0. Everything is prep. You're maintaining the rest of your life, right? There's no pushing your business, there's no promotions, you're
Hmm.
especially that 6 week out mark when it starts to be a big grind. But it's 6 weeks.
Yep.
I think when people experience burnout, it's the perception that there's no end date.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm
And
getting pummeled by my family, I'm getting pummeled by my work, and they don't realize that, like, as corny as it is, like this too shall pass.
yes, I also think that it's because what they don't like what they're doing.
Oh,
If
okay, fair
you
enough.
if you absolutely love what you're doing, you will not burn out
It's true.
because you love it.
Yep.
right? So even if that is work, right? Even if that's building your business and everyone's like, why are you working so much? You shouldn't work so much. You should come hang out and you should come drink with us and you should, if you love it, you will never burn out. Now, you have to also look at it too, where there's totally the possibility that your feelings towards it might change a little bit, might go like this. Just be mindful of that, and then you add in something you love, right? Like I had my
Right.
client this morning. I was talking with her, and she's like, I'm overwhelmed. And I'm like, okay, let's go through a list. What's on your mind? Oh, I have so much to do. Okay, what do you have to do? Let's like kind of, turns out she's just pinpointing because she has to do something this weekend that she really doesn't want to do. And then that manifested in the feeling of being overwhelmed,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, great. That's something, unfortunately, you have to do it. So then after you do that thing, you're going to go to the gym and you're going to pick your favorite body part to train and you're going to do that. And then that gives you kind of the light at the end of the tunnel to look forward towards,
Here's the
right?
character
So,
test. Did she train legs?
oh, she didn't do it yet. It's this weekend.
Oh,
Knowing her though, she probably would. She's a killer. She
she's a
would do
killer.
any. She loves all body parts. Yeah, she's a killer.
So
But
what would you say is your favorite thing about working in the physique space, like in the bodybuilding transformations, that sort of space?
the honest answer is, I'm very competitive.
Okay.
So so I get more nervous watching my clients on stage than me going on stage. Right? I feel like, so when they're about to go up there, my heart's pounding on my chest. I'm like ready for them to go up there and win and get first call out and all that stuff, right? So it's almost like I'm going to create these I get to create these athletes that are competitive in a competition, right? I think that's super cool. Obviously, I love their transformations inside and out.
Yeah.
Um, I work with a fantastic group of people right now, which as a coach, as you go on, those people kind of self-select for you,
Oh
and they
yeah,
see your
absolutely.
stuff, right? They see your posts, they see your content, and they're like, "Oh, that's the coach I want," right? And then usually it's a great client coach relationship.
100%.
Um, so it's just like when you create those relationships, then you're proud to see that person complete the journey. I obviously love bodybuilding, or I wouldn't have done 13 shows, right?
Right.
So it's like, um, seeing people do something that I love and I got them there is like, it's just super cool.
How do you balance that personal competitiveness with the competitiveness of the individual? Right? Because if
A
you
lot
want
of
to
them are
win,
competitive.
really,
Yeah, I haven't had anyone just tell me, like, "Oh, I just want to do it to try it." I've never had that.
see that surprises me because even myself, like I'm a very competitive person, but I'm also a realist.
Mm.
So when I decided to do my show, I was like, there's no division for refrigerators, so I'm going to just try my best.
But that's
And
because you were such a high level athlete in another sport, though,
true.
right?
Yeah.
So that was like me going to powerlifting, right? I wanted to do well and I was planning to do well,
Right.
but
You
I was
prepared
able
as if you were going to win.
but I was able to, like, now mind you, the whole week before I was like so nervous. I was
Really?
way more nervous for powerlifting. Performance anxiety was like 100 out of 10.
Interesting.
Like I couldn't eat the whole week. I like dropped 6 pounds like the week before. I couldn't keep anything down. I was so nervous, dude.
Oh, wow.
Oh man, it was wild. I was eating like just like plain rice to try to get some carbs in. Um, oh yeah, that was thinking back, I'm like, that was so funny because like I did great. Why was I so nervous? But that was more so like on meet day, I was able to like, okay, I'm gonna have fun today. Especially when you're done your first squat,
Yeah, once you get the first
you
squat
get
out
to
of the
like,
way, it's
You get
It's
to,
all downhill.
yeah.
I mean, until you fall.
Too soon, too soon, too
It's
soon.
okay. It's okay. I've been finding a lot of humor in the process. Uh, so I find that really interesting because there's a few approaches to competitiveness, right? Like you can look at it. I'm going to be competitive with myself. I'm going to bring the best out of myself. And if you have that anchor of like, okay, this was my previous performance, I want to beat my best self.
Yep.
It's a really measurable benchmark.
Yeah.
But if you're coming to it new and you don't necessarily know what to expect, I think preparing as if you're going to win is a fantastic way to say almost like you don't have the anchor, so you can say, I think a professional would do X, so I'm
Yep.
going to do that. Is that
Yep.
something that you work on with your clients, like goal setting wise?
Goal setting. My clients are. I'm very, very blessed. They are quite self-directed in that department. Um, I feel like people that self-select to even do a bodybuilding show are already kind of more goal-oriented people, and even on this case, more extreme goal-oriented.
Okay.
So like they never have any problem with like I'm thinking. I'm just thinking right now. Like I have five competitors next weekend
Okay.
competing, and all of them are just like you know game day. They're getting ready for game day, and they're going all in, and like they're a little nervous, but a lot of them are like, "I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna kill it." And I'm like, "Yeah, you are. You're ready, right?" So I think it's just me giving them affirmation of like, "Yep, you did all the work. You did everything I said to do on the plan. I'm very confident in my coaching. You
Mm-hmm.
followed it perfectly. We're ready." Kind of thing. So I think they just feel ready because there have been people that I've had to say like, no, you're not competing,
Okay.
right?
Let's talk a little
Like
bit more about that then. Yeah.
yeah, like I won't if it gets to the 4 week out and body's not responding. Um, it usually boils down to a stress issue. Sometimes boils down to a food issue,
Yeah.
right? Um, they eventually say like, "Hey, yeah, I haven't been following it. Do you think we can make up time?" Like,
Nope.
no, right? So I'm honest with that because these people are attached to my name and my coaching,
Of
right?
course.
So, and I also don't want to put someone up there to not feel good, right? Because it's not going to feel good if you go up there and you're nowhere near ready, right? Which unfortunately you see people up there all the time like that. And even if it is their first show, there's many shows. Like you can always say, "Hey,
Yeah.
let's do the one in X amount of weeks, X amount of months," right? I think those people get treated like a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And that's unfortunate because yes, can they be better next time? Yes, but it is a bodybuilding competition. It's not a physique transformation. They have those. You can go do summer shredding. You could go do even
Yeah.
Toronto has one. So if it's just about like, hey, I lost all this weight, but you're still not stage lean or
Right.
stage ready, or you can't pose to save your life, like that's my issue is that there's no like I guess that's what regional shows are supposed to be for, but there's no like you don't get drafted to because you can even turn pro and not be a great pro. I guess that's true
Right.
in any sport, but it's not like you're drafted to the NFL and then you get to do bodybuilding. It's not like you have to go in front of a panel of people and they're like, "Yes, you're lean enough to go on stage. Yes, you know what I mean." People can just walk on there.
Well, I like what you said about representing you as a coach, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
your body of work is essentially their body.
Mm-hmm.
So, what does that say about you that you would allow someone to poorly represent themselves? And I kind of waffle back and forth about this because some people just want to get on stage. They just want to get in the best shape of their life and they want to get on stage.
then
But
I
that
would put
might
them in the transformation.
right. But what I was gonna say is like maybe that's not your client.
Yeah,
Right. Maybe that one,
that's
maybe
fair.
that person isn't going to come to you. And that's sort of where
Yeah.
I wanted to drive the conversation because you've said the term self-selecting a few times. And it's something that I try to speak to the coaches that I work with in a mentorship capacity about. You are going to get the type of clients based on the information and the persona and the content that you put out. Right. So if you're getting shit clients, I'm going to say shit clients because there are shit clients. I don't want to be derogatory, but some people are shit. Um, it's because of what you're putting out.
Yeah.
So, what are some things that you do consciously to ensure that you're getting the clients that you want?
I will use question boxes to ask questions on certain things. And then sometimes in those question boxes, will write my own questions
Oh
to
no,
then,
you do that? Surprise!
um,
Everybody does that, people.
surprise, everyone does it.
Everyone.
Um, to then answer questions that maybe people had and they were embarrassed and they didn't even want to put it in the box, but maybe they did have those questions.
Right.
To answer it in a way that's honest, genuine, um, and comes off with I don't feel like I'm ever acting on social media. How I am on Instagram is how I am in real life, 100%. I'm silly in my
I would
stories.
agree.
I
Yeah.
train hard in my stories. I'm how I am in my posts, how I am in real life. Um, so I don't feel like I have to. I feel like me just being me is people are like, oh yeah, that's badass. That's powerful. That's, you know, boss chick, like whatever they want to say. That's how I am. So
Well,
I really,
I call it like being a product of your product, right?
yeah,
So you are at the end of the day the product.
yeah,
And people who want to be like you are going to be the ones who approach. So if you're putting out, your mentality on competition, if you're putting out the ferocity with which you approach your training, the discipline that you approach your nutrition, you're honest about the barriers that you're facing and how you're overcoming them, that's going to have people raising their hands and saying, hey,
yeah,
like, I really like this. I want to do it. Um, it's something like I give credit to Olivia a lot of the time because she speaks directly to the person that she wants to be coaching very,
yeah,
very well.
100%.
And that reflects in the types of clients that she's getting. She's basically has a roster of her 5 years ago. But
And it's
you,
cool because as women, on that
Mhm.
note, as muscular women in 2024, we now have this avenue of people taking female coaches in physique seriously, right?
Well, Mr.
It's
Olympia's coach was his wife. So
exactly,
actually, two
exactly,
Mr. Olympia coaches.
exactly. So it was very much like, oh, women can have authority as coaches in bodybuilding, and like I have a bunch of male clients.
I was going to
I don't,
ask, like, because I knew that. Yeah, you have a lot of
yeah,
a lot of male clients.
I have a lot of male clients, and I think they, approached me as a coach because first of all, I have more muscle, right? I'm in bigger divisions as a
Right.
woman.
Yep.
So that alone speaks volumes, especially being self-coached on top of that,
Yep.
right? So there's a level of like, well, it's not a bikini chick coaching me, right?
True.
Right. Like for Olivia as well, she holds like how many powerlifting records? Like
A
she's
bunch, yeah.
strong, she's muscular, right? So like she has this authority in people's brains when they see that. And
Yeah.
that's why immediately they will trust people like her or myself just from our external what we show, right? Because if you're just like, you know, say a leaner body type and you're putting that out there, someone wouldn't come to you for growth,
Right.
right? Whereas we've showed size and being lean. So people are like, oh yeah, like totally I would have that person coach me, men and women for me.
I have a hard time with. Okay, so this is coming from a male too, right? A male who had a female coach, right? So like Danny was my coach for over 2 years.
Hmm.
Um, I think personally, the physique and the accomplishments are kind of what gets you in the door. So like that initial eyes on you, probably because of your physique, your strength, your accomplishments, whatever. But I think what keeps people in the room is the relationship you're able to build with them and the results you're able to get. So now I'm sure that you're going to be getting more and more male clients simply because you have evidence that you can prep males as well.
100%.
Now, people will say, okay, you need to niche down and you
That's
need
what
to,
I was just thinking.
yeah.
You
So
read my mind.
I'm like, okay, well, Sam, what's your niche? If you're coaching
Hmm.
men, you're coaching women, they're both
Yep,
competing. You're not a bikini coach. You're not a bodybuilding exclusive coach. Do you ever think about niching?
I do. That will come as the business grows and there's more assistant coaches on the team.
Okay.
I will most likely take one specific division, and I think I have that division in mind, but I will keep it a secret for now. It's not the one I compete in, but I just tend to get a lot of clients in this division. So
Hmm.
it's almost like the niche
Men's
selects itself.
bikini.
Yeah, no. Um, uh, it's very much like I just end up with a lot of this division anyway, so it kind of makes sense. Um, but right now, the niching down for me recently was going from taking on competitors and lifestyles to just competitors. So that's already a niche down. So I'm going to hang out there um, for the next little while at least. And I really
Did
just,
you self select that out, or did you be
yeah,
like, yeah, I'm not doing
I,
that anymore?
yeah, yeah, I
Okay.
made that decision. Yeah. So I still have some lifestyle, but they're, grandfathered over. I
Right.
won't, unless they want to leave, I'll keep them on my roster for sure.
Uh-huh.
Because some of them have been there for, oh my one client, he's been with me like 5, 6 years
So would you
as a
say no
lifestyle
to a
guy.
lead if they didn't want to compete?
I send them to Tim
Oh,
because
lucky him.
Tim is lifestyle. So I've done that a few times last week already.
Okay.
And because some people, because this is why we have like consultation calls,
Right.
right?
Yeah, 100%.
Because some people have come to me and they're like, "Oh, I want lifestyle." I say, "Oh no, like Tim, this is Tim. He's great at this. You should book a call with him, whatever, whatever." And they're like, "Oh no, I just work better with a woman, I think." And then I always just say like, "Give him a chance, have a talk, and see if he's a good fit for you." Right? I kind of just like,
He looks great in a dress.
yeah, I kind of downplay that because they don't really know. They're looking for expert advice to what they actually need,
Right.
and it really doesn't matter on gender of who can someone if someone is good at their job, they will get you there, 100%, right? So that's what's been happening lately. So I'm lucky in the sense of I have him as a resource for
Right.
people. If I didn't, I probably would work something out with another coach that I trust, right? If they were strictly lifestyle and I'm strictly competitor, we could, if they have a competitor reach out, they send to me, and lifestyle I send to them, kind of thing. Um, because it's amazing getting to the point in your business where you can say no to clients,
Absolutely.
right? Right, and that's been like that for a little while now. But when I was first starting, I can remember being like, I have to take everyone that comes to me,
Yeah.
right? And that's where you discover that there are shit clients,
Yeah.
right?
I think too, like, if you're taking everyone that comes to you and there isn't any sort of like vetting process, I think you do it's much easier to get overwhelmed when you're not doing serving people that you love serving.
Yeah, 100%. That's something that for any new coach listening to this, something that I wish I would have done sooner is had a
Mhm.
better vetting process. Ask more questions before they get on the call. Ask better questions in the call. Stuff like that.
To be fair, if you're interviewing a client for that first time and they see that you are being very discerning with whether or not they're a good fit, they'll want to work with you more,
I know.
which
The
is,
psychology. Woo.
I know. Some people think I'm telepathetic, when in fact I'm just
Yeah.
great at answering questions or
Yeah,
asking
exactly.
questions.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so we talked about self-selecting for clients. We talked about, finding a niche. When you think about your role as a coach in the physique space, one thing that's being brought to the forefront a lot lately, especially with a lot of the drama happening in the bodybuilding industry, is the responsibility of the coach to the health of their athlete.
Hmm.
Talk to me a little bit about your approach and how important that is to you, and how you might have a conversation with a client who's wanting to undertake in behaviors that you don't necessarily stand behind.
So let me answer the second part of that question first.
Sure.
I create a level of authority that they know if they were to choose to do that, that they would no longer have me as a coach,
Okay.
right? The door is clear, open, shut. That's it, kind of thing. So, health is actually, I had a client consultation today, and I prefaced with health is number one. Um, and that goes when people think health in bodybuilding, they think people using PEDs and how to deal with that. But
It's so much
competing
more.
naturally, competing naturally though, still is a health risk.
Oh, huge.
You're still putting the body in a state of starvation, in a state of low body fat, high cortisol, whatever concoction of hormones in their body that's going to be probably out of whack,
Of course.
right? So it's not just open versus natty, it's an umbrella of health first, right? So
I love that you said that.
all clients need blood work done. That is a low-hanging fruit. It is
Hmm.
so easy. If you're in Canada and your doctor is being weird, you can go to a private lab and pay for it. It's a
Totally.
non-issue, right? We
Yep.
have access to that now. We didn't necessarily in the past. At least I didn't know about it. Like when I started competing,
Yeah.
I didn't
Me
know
too.
there was. I'm sure I'm sure there was, but you had to like probably really look for it. Um, but now they're so easy to find. So that's low hanging fruit. That's a non-issue. Then from there, what I like to do is just have people really be in touch with their bodies. And I do that by asking questions,
Okay.
right? And then I'm able to kind of potentially work towards a solution if there is a potential problem because of the volume of experience, number one,
Hmm.
or direct them to a healthcare professional that would be good for that issue, right? If there is an issue. If there's an issue.
Yeah.
Now,
I.
mind you, like at Swiss with like blood work things, like at Swiss with Dr. Serrano,
Yep.
like I would go to resources like that to be like, okay, what's actual normal range for bodybuilding competitors, right? And that's a
Yep.
great resource because obviously, they're like, oh, I'm in range on the little,
Yeah.
average range. Um, but they don't really know that, oh no, you're actually like super low for an athlete, right? So just little things like that. But that's the first step. Next step is communication, mindfulness with their own bodies. Next step is as a female, cycle management,
Yep.
right? Um, and then it's just kind of going from there in terms of like because obviously on a prep you get to a point where yeah you're not feeling good,
Yep.
but there's a line of like oh that's prep not feeling good and that's like actually not feeling good, and you just know that from experience. You
Yeah.
can't really teach that to someone because they have to feel it,
One of the things that I really
right?
like preaching to clients and making sure that they understand right away is that if we're placing health number one, knowing that whatever I am saying is not a prescription.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
this
yeah.
is so that's one thing for me is very important to understand. Like, I'm not telling you what to do. In fact, I'm giving you all the information that you need to make the best decision for you within this protocol that we're going through. And
Mhm.
that plays whether it's a natural competitor or an enhanced competitor, because as you said, the health, I would argue that in some instances, being enhanced does provide you the opportunity to save your system to some regard, right?
Mhm.
Especially like a thyroid, for example.
Yeah.
You can support a thyroid in an enhanced competitor to make that post show period a little bit more systemically friendly. But in a natural competitor, they're going to be suppressed for a really long time, and it does take time to come back.
What I do for my natural competitors to combat that better though is so for example, my 5 clients um in the show coming up this
Yep.
weekend, all of them through the whole prep had a high day every single week. No exceptions.
Right.
So that
Yeah.
was anywhere from 2 to 300 grams of carbs, right? Once a week, the whole prep. And they were all able to lose, like, 2 of them lost over 40, one lost 30, one lost 55, and then one lost like 20 something. So it was like they were able to get to where I wanted them to be, to where
Yep.
I'm now looking at them on peak week being like, yes, you're ready. You just need some carbs and you're ready,
Yep.
right? Um, so that to me is a good indication because usually for me there's a potential thyroid issue if it's like a very long plateau,
Yeah.
like you're driving down food and it's like nothing's happening, but with that carb day
Hmm.
they continuously, like, it's not obviously linear,
Right.
but the overall projection of the graph is in the right direction, right? So that's one thing I like to do for natural that sometimes for enhanced I don't do as often because
Yeah.
I
You can get
push.
away with it. Yeah.
You can get away with it, right? Um, so it's interesting. There definitely are differences. There definitely are
Yeah.
differences, which I kind of like too. That's the scientist in me in the back is like, ooh, experiments, like you know.
Yeah.
But
For every problem, there's a solution, and then there's a creative
yeah,
solution to go along with that. And I think blending the need for, hey, we need to be in a caloric deficit and we need to slash fat off your body,
hmm,
but we can do some things to mitigate these adaptations along the way and make sure that you're in a better position
yeah.
post show for
And it's
sure.
just it's so funny because especially like me being on off season right now,
Yeah.
they'll have their carb day, right? They'll be so hungry all week telling me how hungry they are. Then the carb day comes and they're like, I don't know if I should eat this.
I know.
And I was like, weren't you just starving all week? They're like,
Yeah.
but I don't want to mess anything up. I'm like, no, 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 it's in your plan.
Yeah.
And
It's going
it's
to
just
help
so
you.
funny. It's so fun. It's so funny because the brain is just like the brain. Two of them have had kids, and I was like, what's worse, prep brain or pregnancy brain? And they're like, prep brain by far,
Well, that's good. That's good
which
for
is
me to know when
yeah,
Liv has kids. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. They were like, pregnancy brain was just like if something didn't go your way, you kind of cried. They're like
Uh-huh.
prep brain. It's like it. My one client was like, I just thought that I should eat a full bottle of mustard. I was like, yeah, that sounds right.
What's the weirdest craving you've ever had?
Oh, I like my snails on prep.
Like escargot?
Yeah, like I'll just fry them up in a pan.
That's so bougie.
So good. You get them at the dollar store. Literally Dollarama.
What?
Yeah, it's just a little can of snails at Dollarama. It's like $1.20.
Okay, this
It
is
sounds bougie, but it's you just put a little like 2 grams of coconut oil. You fry up the snails. You know, add a little garlic. Oh, amazing.
this conversation took a really weird turn.
I was putting that all over my story on prep, and people like, ew, ew, ew. I'm like, I'm 4 weeks out. This is the most delicious food I've ever eaten.
I never had weird cravings like that. I just wanted more
Uh,
food.
yeah, I wanted like a massive bowl of oatmeal. I was like, oh, that
Yeah.
just sounds. Oh, that would just take all my problems away.
Just stick to your ribs, you'd be good to
Yes.
go.
Oh, so dense and like filling. Oh yeah. Weirdest craving though. I don't.
I think escargot is a pretty fucking weird craving, dude.
Yeah, but I also like ate it. I was able to like eat it because I
You
was
just
just tracking
you fit your
macros,
macros.
right? Um, but like craving in terms of like food that I couldn't fit in. I don't know. You do so many shows, it doesn't really phase you. Like when people are like, "What are you gonna eat post show?" I'm like, I know I'm gonna be thirsty. You know, it's like I'm not really like, oh, I have to have a donut or I'm gonna die. It's like I don't really feel like that anymore. The first show, it was Nutella. I like could not wait till I could eat Nutella again. I was like
That's a big one for
obsessed with
Liv.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, and then you're like, but now you're like, I know it's just like basically motor oil and sugar. It's like I want it so bad.
um,
Oh man.
Tell me a little bit about how your experience this year prepping for
Mm,
Toronto, being disappointed, deciding to push through to Vancouver, and ultimately not doing that show.
yeah.
How did that change how you interact with your clients? Because that's a tough
It
decision,
will.
Sam.
Yep. It was. I've never quit a prep, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I felt like I didn't. It was weird because it felt like I didn't quit it because Vancouver was never in the plans.
Okay.
When Vancouver was like I was upset after Toronto, so I was like, I'm just gonna do it
Right.
kind of thing, and then not really thinking that through, making an impulsive decision, and then just getting to a point where I was like, no, I couldn't do it. That would have been maybe like where it would have been like burnout. But I still love bodybuilding. It was more so like I don't think I was prepping the right way for myself. If that makes sense. Like I didn't pick the right method this time around. But when
Hmm.
you're that far deep, you just have to keep going, right?
Do you think that
That
having
makes
that
sense.
experience, yeah, for sure. Do you think having that experience of pulling back and that internal dialogue that you had with yourself would allow you better to, give you more empathy to help someone else navigate whether or not they should step on stage?
Not more, because
Okay.
I was always empathetic. Like I never judged anyone if they had to pull out. Like just because I never did it, I wasn't like, "Oh, you're being such a baby to do." Like I never thought that, anyways,
Right.
because I really take into account. Like I feel like I ask a lot of questions to dig
Yeah.
deep to like, okay, what's the actual issue here, right? Like let me ask you a million questions till we nail it down. So it, like you know when your client is struggling, and then if you ask the right questions, you can come up usually with a solution together if continuing a prep is possible and smart, or if you should pull back and pick a later show, which is what I did with one of my clients for this upcoming show. Um, she was not going to be ready. It was still like her first year on a new strenuous job,
Mm,
um, which was like messing with sleep, messing with her ability to get cardio in, messing with her ability to spend any quality time with her family.
right.
So it's like that I was empathetic to that, like because that happened something similar happened before I had quit my own prep.
Right.
So it's like you can still be empathetic to like, okay, like here's all the factors, pros and cons. Is it worth it? No, it's not worth it. Okay, let's pull out, kind of thing.
You've alluded to a very high level of communication within your coaching.
Oh
How
yeah.
do you manage that with a full client load?
um I'll tell you the honest answer to that,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you the secret. It's because my husband does the same thing.
Okay.
So I don't have in my safe place when I'm at home working, I don't have someone in my ear being like, "Why are you texting everyone all day? Why are you messaging people? Can't you talk to me? Why are you on your phone so much?" I don't have any of that in my ear.
Right.
So we're both just chilling here, doing what we love, working, talking to our clients, and we love doing it. So we both have that understanding. So then it's super easy for me to just be like messaging my clients when I need to. Right? I don't feel any guilt having my phone, texting my clients when he's in the room. Like, so that's the actual answer. I think I would have a different answer if I had a different partner who was not into fitness at all, which I don't think would even be possible for me.
Yeah. Plus, you would
But
never have another partner other than Tim. He's amazing.
no, Tim's the best. He's the best. I'm biased, but he's actually the best. Um, so I think that's my answer to that because, we can all manage work, especially if we love it, right? I
Yes.
totally could like make time to talk to my clients and stuff like that. I think it's because I don't have the external talking in the ear that makes
Yeah.
it even easier,
Yeah, for
right?
sure. I found for me personally, like, because my coaching is very hands-on. I talk to my clients multiple
Mm-hmm.
times a week. I don't do the whole check-in day thing as the only touch point.
Yep,
Um,
I'm the
because I
same.
don't think you can build a relationship that way.
No.
But for me, I also found over the years that I can't manage that high level of communication without times where I disconnect purposefully.
Yep.
So for me, it's a matter of, and the reason I'm sharing is a lot of young coaches do listen to the podcast. So it's important to get both
Mm-hmm.
sides, right? And, there are coaches like, yourself, what you're alluding to, Tim, our mutual friend, Stuart, who are like communicating
Yeah.
all day with their clients.
Yep.
I set aside twice a day where I'll spend a good 30 to 40 minutes plugged into my clients and then move on. And then later on the evening, we'll do the same thing. And for me, that works for me.
Yep.
And as long as you have an understanding with your clients of this is how we're operating, but also an understanding that if they're not getting results, you have to change your procedures.
Yep.
So as long as things are driving results, I think you're in a good place. So
Yep.
whenever I hear a coach talking about high levels of communication, high levels of engagement with their clients, I always am enticed to ask more because it's something that I implore all the coaches that I work with to implement because it's the number one way to improve retention is to actually give a shit.
Yep. 100%. I set that boundary at the beginning in terms of, hey, we're going to be talking daily if you need it. Most likely you
Yep.
will. um, I usually answer here, 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 but I will answer throughout the day. I use like WhatsApp business for
Yep.
my communication. So I will put an auto message if I'm gone all day and then they text me, they get that auto message. They know I'm busy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's like they know kind of if I'm not going to reply.
Yep.
Right. And if not, I've never had anyone have an issue because I will get back to everyone before I sleep, kind of thing.
Yep.
Anyone who's sent a message, right? So for me, it was like having our time at Swiss this past weekend. That was like my disconnect time. Like I didn't talk to anyone until we got home later. So that was
Right.
awesome. But at the same time, I was like, oh, do I need to like look and help anyone? And da, 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 da. But it's like also about having trust in your clients that you've taught them well enough that they'll be okay without you.
Yep.
And I don't really think I have an issue with that because I'm quite confident um, in their abilities and mine. But I do know other coaches that it's like they wouldn't even be able to handle it if you know they didn't. They're like, oh, what if someone needs me right now? And they get kind of like a slave to the
Yep.
phone in terms of messaging. So that's something that I think is just a skill you work on. I don't
I
think
think
that can be taught necessarily because that will be you figuring out what works for you and then noticing if it's becoming, let's say, an unhealthy habit instead of serving your clients.
that's a fantastic way of
That makes
putting
sense.
it. I always bring it back to like this is one instance where I bring it back to the research. So a friend of mine, Dave Osborne, did his PhD on online coaching. And what he found
Cool.
was the frequency of feedback is actually very important to, number one, the coach athlete relationship, but also the outcomes of the athlete. You want
Mm-hmm.
to have the feedback close enough to the session. So if we're talking about training,
Yeah.
close enough to the session that the client is aware of the goals and what's expected of them. And then the feedback needs to come close enough from finishing the session that they can still remember what it felt like to do it. So if
Yeah.
you're too far on either end, you're missing the boat. But what they did find is if the feedback comes while the person is performing the exercise, it does reduce performance because you're not allowing them to create those internal narratives and address their own barriers. So you're actually reducing autonomy within that regard. So what I
Interesting.
will always say is like if a client is sending me training videos during their session, I won't answer because I want them to go through that process of potentially making a bad decision or making a mistake because it allows us to talk about it afterwards. If I'm making the decisions for them, they're not learning.
Cool.
So that's where I bring it back to. It's like it's like I'm going to do this and then I'm going to figure out a scientific rationale for why I chose to do it. I'm like, there you go.
Yeah. Because I guess that's good because then if they did make not a great decision, you can ask and then you can figure out how their decision making works and then you
Exactly.
can help reframe that to your coaching style and what you believe works for them, right?
100%.
So I don't know,
So
it's just so cool. I
it
just
is.
love what I do. Um,
And I see it.
you know,
That's why I was excited to have you on the podcast and talk about it because I know that you're someone who I've known of you for a long time, more recently become friends, and it's been great to see other people doing great things and trying to level up what they're doing. It fires me up. Whenever I
oh
see
yeah,
you guys and I see what you're doing and how much you're pushing your business and impacting people, it's exciting and I'm grateful to have a platform that I can share, what my friends do.
I appreciate that.
No problem. So I'm going to finish up with some really silly questions for you
Cool.
because I think it's awesome. What is the lowest calorie count you've ever had on prep?
890. Yeah.
Okay.
But that was this past prep and that was with no hit. That was a super low, that was just a super high step count. So
Wow.
yeah, but that was, and mind you, that wasn't daily. That was like a carb cycling. So that was
How
my
many
super low
steps are we
day,
talking super high step count?
between 20 and 25,000
Oh
a
my
day.
God. You were literally walking all day.
Yeah,
No wonder you
yeah.
felt
It was,
stringy.
yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot, but it was like, right, you put yourself in that hole. You got to keep going. Like,
Yeah, because at that
yeah,
point
man.
you can't be like, all right, fuck this. I'm going to swap some of these for cardio because then
I
you're
had to,
fucked.
I had to, I had to follow through. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad that Prep Sam at the end wasn't like, oh, I'm going to change the whole thing. Right? Because I
Yeah.
totally could have done that. I
Yeah.
totally could have been like, let me just go back to this. It's like, no, I wanted to finish it, get the data. I didn't like it as much.
Yeah.
Great. Now I know. I wouldn't have never known.
I love it.
So,
That's a lot of fucking steps, man.
yeah. And the 890 was a lot of egg whites. I was like turning into an egg white with how much egg whites I was.
What's the lowest calories you've ever put a client on?
And not ever less than 1,000.
Yeah, I've never done that either.
Yeah. No, it's like I'll try the crazy stuff on myself.
Yeah, like the protein
Right.
sparing fast. You'll like, okay, I'll try this out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I would never like, no, not less than 1,000 ever.
What was the hardest training session in your life?
Hmm. Okay, it would be multiple of them, but they're all with the same trainer. So I
Hmm.
never necessarily had a coach, but in 2019, I was able to work with an in-person trainer, and we would see him once or twice a week.
Okay,
And his name was Jerome Bravo. He was
great
Mr.
name.
Canada. He was Mr. Canada in 2014. He's gonna kill me that I don't know that, but he
His
won
legal
Mr.
last name is Bravo.
Yeah,
Phenomenal. Okay.
yeah. He was. I would be so nervous every session. before we saw him. I was like, I would like go quiet. I would like feel nauseous because I knew how hard the training session was going to be.
I
Okay.
love that.
So then, so then during the time that the gyms were shut down, okay,
Yeah.
he built this mini, like his condo was like so small. And he put a squat rack in there, a plate loaded little mini leg extension thing, pull up and dip machine, and then he had the adjustable dumbbells. That was the hardest work I've ever done with just that equipment. He had us doing lunges in the hallway of the condo building until we legitimately were puking in our mouths.
I like this guy.
He just amazing, and I'll tell you. So that was 2019 going into nationals, which was near the end of the year. So
Okay.
it still was around the same time, October, November, and that was 100% one of my best looks. 100%. And the only reason I didn't win on that one is because uh, Lisa, who's now like she's done quite well for herself. She's a pro women's bodybuilder now.
Okay.
Her glutes were the most shredded glutes I had ever seen in person. Just, just
Like saran wrapped.
just, just so lean that you're like, I didn't even know that that was possible on a woman. Like, just absolutely, like the glutes won the show, but right there.
Wild.
So, but for myself, I was super happy with that look. I was lean. I was like the muscles looked, they had that better look to them that
Mhm.
you get, yes, you get with the carb up, but it depends on your training style too. And it depends on the intensity and then training and all, it all comes together. So, yeah, that
Oh,
was, yeah,
I definitely think that
he,
style of training impacts the look a great deal,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
Like
but he was insane. It was crazy.
I think I'm gonna clip the podcast clip is gonna be with you going, yeah, her glutes were like
Give me my Oscar while you're at it.
yeah,
That was great
exactly.
acting.
Sam, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. I sent you an email, so send me some links where people can find
Yeah,
you. I'll put those in
absolutely.
the show notes. And everyone, thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Peace.